Hi. Today I want to talk to you a little bit about interviewing and give you some tips that I think will be helpful as you proceed and get into an interviewing situation. First off, be prepared. Obviously, it's really important to research the organization, know what they do, know what their key products and services are, know what they are in the business of doing, and whether that's a nonprofit or a for-profit company, doesn't matter. Understand what they do because you want to frame your responses in terms of how you can help them. Don't make this about what's good for you. Make it about why you're good for that organization. Bring your A game. Bring the best that you can be. Don't just do an interview for practice. You want to bring your A game and do the absolute best that you can be. Be prepared and bring everything on the table. Sort of treat every job as if it is the only job, not out of a sense of desperation, but just out of a sense of doing the best that you can for that specific interview. Always be part of the solution, not part of the problem. Always be able to talk about the value that you can bring to the company and not why it needs to serve you. That's not what it's about. It's not about meeting your needs. It's about you helping them meet their needs. And if you're able to frame it that way, you're going to find your good opportunities, but it's always got to be part of the solution. And then there's this 50-50 and 22 rules that I like to refer to. And one is basically 50-50, which means you're going to be talking as much as they are. And then the 22 rule is that any kind of decent response that you're making to a question should take anywhere from 20 seconds to 2 minutes. If it's taken less than that, you're probably hitting it too briefly. And if it's taken more than 2 minutes, you're probably going to put them to sleep. So keep that in mind when you're preparing for your responses. Now, there are four main question types that you're going to get, and you should be prepared to talk about all four of these or to answer all four of these. The first one is the basic, tell me about yourself. You're selling yourself, so sell. Talk about yourself. Be proud of what you're doing. So have it frame it though in terms of the value that you can bring to the employer. Don't make it about yourself or what you want, but more about how you're good at certain things, that what you love to do, and how that's valuable to the employer. So keep it brief, keep it job related, and then always close with a statement about how you can bring value. It's a theme that's consistent. Talk about yourself, sell, be proud of what you're saying, and close with the idea of how you can bring value to them. And if you've done your research on them, that will be an easy thing for you to do. The second type question you're going to get is, what are one or two of your weaknesses? Now, don't try to spin a strength into a fake weakness. I work too hard and make that a weakness. We're all human. We all have weaknesses. Be honest. Talk about what your weaknesses are. Keep them job related, and always include a plan for how you're going to deal with your weakness. If you aren't able to identify some weaknesses, think about it a little bit, get prepared, and then how do you deal with those weaknesses? It shows that you've got a strong self-awareness and a commitment to improve. It's okay to have weaknesses. We all do. Just the key is to identify them so that you understand who you are and you can communicate who you are, and then you've got a commitment to improving. Now, the third question is a hypothetical situation. So say they ask you a question like this: a deadline for a project is near and you won't meet the deadline, how are you going to handle it? Or a customer comes in angry and upset, how would you handle this situation? And you have the opportunity with situational questions to really just be creative and talk about how you would handle them. But the key that they're always looking for when they ask you a hypothetical situational question is they want to understand how you would take the lead, be a leader in this capacity, so that it's not just say, well, we're going to miss the deadline. Unfortunately, that's not how you'd handle it. How you'd want to handle this is take the lead and demonstrate leadership in how you would handle a given situation. And one of the frameworks that we use to encourage people to think about leadership is this idea of value, that you use an acronym that talks about what is your vision. So in this case, with the missing the deadline, our vision is that we will all do everything we can to ensure that we don't miss any deadlines. And we're going to align the resources against making that deadline. So I'm going to pull the team together. I'm going to look at the budget. I'm going to look at is there a possibility to work overtime, whatever we need to do, but I need to align resources to address that vision. I want to ensure that everyone understands where we're at. So I'm going to put in a strong communication plan. I'm going to let the customer know where we stand. I'm going to let my management know. And I'm going to be sure that we stay on top and keep everyone informed going forward so that there is true understanding. And then lastly, that we put controls in place so that we enact the plan that I'm going to follow through. I'm going to put controls in place. So we got into a situation in the past because I didn't have enough controls in place, for instance. It's going to make sure that this doesn't repeat itself. Those are the kinds of responses that people are looking for when they ask a situational question. So if you could have all sorts of different kinds of questions might come up, and it's really hard to prepare for all of them, but definitely have a few kind of scenarios in mind. But you can use this value approach, vision, alignment, understanding, and enactment to help demonstrate leadership that they're looking for when they're asking situational questions. So be prepared for situational questions. And these, again, hypothetical questions. And how do you respond to them? Use the value approach. The other kind is behavioral questions. And this is they're looking for specific examples. So give me a specific example of a time when you had to conform to a policy. Or tell me a time when you've had to face a stressful situation. What they're looking for is examples of behavior. Don't answer these in terms of, well, generally this is how we do it. That's not what they're looking for. They're looking for, how did you handle it in a specific kind of situation? So you got to kind of get out of your comfort zone sometimes with these and talk about what you did personally and use the I pronoun. This is what I did. Now, a way to frame that is we use the STAR acronym, which basically says, tell them the situation, tell them the task that you had in that situation, tell them what action you actually took, and be sure to close it with what the result was. And you want to talk about the results in terms of how it improved the customer, or how it improved the profitability of the organization, or how it improved the overall processes and the people and the teamwork and that sort of thing. These are all based on this belief, and it's a very valid belief, that the past performance is the best predictor of future performance. You can tell me you're going to do anything, but how you handle the specific situation in the past is a pretty good indication of how you're going to handle it in the future. So think about some examples, and we'll talk about that briefly about how to pull some of those examples together. But use STAR, situation, task, action, and result. So when you get a behavioral question, tell me a time, give them a specific one, and use STAR. If you get a situational question, hypothetically, what is this? How would you handle this kind of situation? Then use value. If you use those two acronyms to guide your responses, you'll be in good shape. And again, remember 20 seconds to 2 minutes to give them the response. Now, there's other kinds of questions that you're going to get, logic questions, or when are you available? Just be honest, be candid, but always think about your answer, how it conveys the sense of value to your potential employer. So be honest, be straightforward. The interviews are more, they're looking for a match. It's not a test. There's a match between you and the company. And if there's a good match, great. You're going to be happy and they're going to be happy. And if there's a match, then you don't want to be working there. So be honest, but always think about how your answers convey a sense of value to that specific employer. Now, some ways to prepare. Get a couple, 3 or 4 examples of when you maybe had to deal with a tough customer or work in a group that was difficult to implement a process. And then prepare responses using the STAR approach. You don't want to read them. You don't want to have them memorized. You want them to be spontaneous and be able to flow. But have some examples of when you had to deal with a tough customer or working in a tough group or implementing a process to improve the profitability of the organization. And then have a couple of examples of how you built customer relations or built a team or implemented a new process, how you would do that using a situational approach and using the value context. So be thinking about that, vision, alignment, understanding, and enactment in response to situational questions, and then STAR in response to behavioral questions. So hopefully that helps you a little bit. Pretty fast coverage of a lot of topics. But remember, there's the 4 questions. Tell me about yourself. Talk about a weakness. situational questions and behavioral questions. And if you prepare with those ideas in mind, you should do pretty good. So good luck with your upcoming interview. Hope you've got one lined up, and hope this helped prepare you a little bit. Good luck.